What's up guys, welcome back to Sempre Into TV. Hoping you guys are having a nice Sunday. Today I'm going to be discussing what for me has been a heartbreaking news. That is Radja Nainggolan leaving Inter. The news that broke a couple of days ago has split the opinion of many Interisti all around the world. A lot of people, of course, completely against it because they feel like, he is our best centre midfielder in the squad, and then a lot of people for it, for his behaviour and injuries and age. To me, of course, I think you guys might be able to tell which side I'm on. I'm quite biased when it comes to Nainggolan. He was my favourite midfielder, outside of Inter players in the last 5 or 6 years in the Serie A. I've always really enjoyed his playing style, what he stands for as a player, as a human really, very anti-Juve, very openly, and a complete player that I love to watch. And then when Inter signed him, I was, super happy that came to Inter as, the big signing of last summer. Spalletti wanted him non-stop. He was the one that turned him into an attacking midfielder at Roma, and he was the coach where he had the best season under. So I'm just going to look back at sort of the timeline of Nainggolan and, kind of retrace the steps that have led Inter to making this decision, with a cooler, calmer mind, putting aside my bias for Nainggolan as a player, seeing why this decision has been made. So hopefully you guys find this informational as well. So of course we have to start off in the summer of 2018 when Nainggolan signed for us, a deal that was valued around the 38 million euro mark. So it was a cash plus player deal where around 22 million euros were cash, and then the rest was covered by Davide Santon, good riddance, and then Nicolo Zaniolo, who, in hindsight turned out to be a really good prospect, and is probably, his value now is around the 30-40 million mark. Nainggolan, of course, was received with a lot of clamour and happiness from the Inter fans. Mobs of Inter fans came to welcome him on his signing day. And, in that 4-2-3-1 formation that Spalletti preferred, that CAM was really the missing link in that Inter team, where Rafinha kind of filled that role, but he was only there for 6 months, and then we couldn't make that deal permanent because, of course, we opted to go for Radja. We sacrificed Cancelo and Rafinha to get Radja Nainggolan. His start at Inter actually wasn't too great in pre-season. He played a few pre-season matches, but then he got injured in pre-season, and so he missed the first 2 matches of the Serie A calendar. And then actually in the August 21st, when Inter played Torino, I believe it was, he was spotted in a nightclub wearing the same top that he was wearing at training earlier on in the day. Of course, if you know about Radja Nainggolan's history, he is known to be, notoriously, a frequent goer, let's say, of nightclubs and that scene, the party scene, so to say. And yeah, he clearly didn't stop whilst he signed for Inter. Just a few weeks before that incident, Spalletti said about Nainggolan, he was 30 when he signed for Inter. Age will catch up to him if he doesn't look after himself, and it looked like Radja didn't listen to, Spalletti's advice, and he was still living the party life. Of course, a lot of Inter fans didn't see that in a positive light. Whilst he's injured, he should be sort of, looking after himself, but he was seen going out. Then Radja returned on match day 3 against Bologna, where he scored crucial goal, and he welcomed himself to Inter fans, of course, and it looked like, that was the beginning to Radja's career at Inter in a positive way. After the match against Bologna, he played 6 matches in a row, where his form was quite, alternating between decent and not really that good. You could see that missing pre-season clearly affected him. He didn't have the same sort of energy and stamina in his legs as the usual ninja would. And then to make matters worse, he got injured in the Milan derby when Lucas Biglia tackled him from behind, quite a dirty tackle actually, which ruled him out for the next few matches. This pattern of playing a few matches and then getting injured seemed to become a pattern later on in the year, as you'll see from the timeline for Radja's career at Inter. After the injury against Milan, he returned very briefly against Genoa, where he scored a header, and then once again, of course, plays against Frosinone, Inter win, but he gets injured afterwards, and that injury unfortunately led him to miss 2 very big matches for Inter. One, of course, against his former team Roma, which he would have been very much up for, and then the Derby d'Italia against Juventus. Once again, he has to be slowly reintegrated into the starting 11. slowly makes his comeback against Udinese and Chievo. But this is when things sort of start to take a left turn in Radja's career at Inter, unfortunately, with the off-field issues. Now we're in the sort of December period, and this is when Beppe Marotta first takes over as CEO at Inter. A clear change in direction from the management, trying to take the club forward, into making Inter one of the top teams in Italy and in Europe once again. And Beppe Marotta, one of the first steps he takes is fining and suspending Radja Nainggolan. Throughout the first few months at Inter, he was reportedly late for training a few times, and of course, as I mentioned, some late nights at nightclubs where he was spotted at, and that's definitely not something that Marotta stands for. And straight away he was punished for that kind of behaviour, and he was suspended for the match against Napoli, another big match that he misses after missing the Roma and Juve match. And then of course around Christmas, more controversy was caused when an audio was leaked of him criticising Inter and Inter fans, and reportedly wanting to go back to Roma. Of course, it's not been confirmed by any sources that it actually was Nainggolan in that audio, but it very much sounded like him in terms of, if you know what he sounds like and his sort of heavy Roman accent. After that fine, that suspension, and of course that controversial audio, it seemed like Radja was turning a new leaf, admitting, to his poor behaviour off the field, kind of making promises to Spalletti that he would change, and it looked like he was slowly reintegrated into the team. He then went on to play 8 matches in a row at very good level. Actually, that was probably the period where we saw the real Radja Nainggolan, especially against the Sampdoria, where he was probably man of the match, and other great performances where he knocked up a few assists as well. But then of course, guess what, gets injured again. This time was a calf injury sustained in training, which made him miss another few matches after he was regaining form, which set him back once again. After that, he missed 2 matches and then slowly came back onto form, alternating form once again. Then had a great performance against Juventus. I was there watching it live, and scored that amazing goal, which I'll remember for the rest of my life. That volley, first time beating Szczesny, the crowd chanting his name, I'll never forget it. And then sort of continuing that form and quite literally dragging the team, securing Champions League football on the last match day when Inter was shitting the bed against Empoli. Very crucial goal that gifted Inter the 4th place on the last match day. Overall in the season, he finished with 7 goals and 4 assists, which is not too bad considering he's a midfielder. Of course, we expected more from Radja, but as we've seen, the injuries, the off-field issues that maybe caused those injuries, the lack of sort of professionality that you expect from Inter's one of the highest paid players. Inter, I think he is up there with Icardi, earning around 4.5 million net a year. You definitely expect a lot more. Then when the new season started, Antonio Conte announced, a lot of people, including me, would think that Radja is the perfect prototype for an Antonio Conte midfielder. Very similar to sort of the Arturo Vidal mode, versatile, warrior, box to box, can score goals, can tackle. And Conte has admitted to wanting Nainggolan in the past at Chelsea and Juventus. But the management team had different plans. Conte's and Marotta's first press conference, Icardi and Radja were announced as out of the project, no turning back, which surprised a lot of Inter fans. Maybe not the Icardi side, but the Radja side definitely surprised a lot of people. Unfortunately, selling Nainggolan was not going to be an easy mission for Ausilio Marotta. Nainggolan, of course, has turned 31, which is, not a spring chicken anymore in footballing terms, outside of sort of the peak years. And of course, he earns a lot of money, 9 million in gross wages. And in terms of, buying him outright, Inter would have to sell him for around 29 million euros if they were not to make a loss on him in terms of the amortized costs on the balance book of the Inter balance book. He costs around 9 million a year in terms of amortized value. So yeah, very expensive player if you were to buy him. So the realistic clubs that seem to be able to buy Radja would be from the Premier League or from China. But unfortunately, his wife was diagnosed with cancer a few weeks ago. Of course, our thoughts are with Radja and his family in these difficult times. And he made in the end a decision very much based on, emotion. He is returning to the Italian team that brought him up into Serie A, and where his heart is really in the Sardinia in Cagliari. That's where his wife is from. That's where they still own a house, and that's where Inter have allowed him to return, even though we would have preferred to let him go to maybe a club that would have paid to buy Radja, maybe in China. But of course, due to the wife and personal reasons, Radja couldn't go abroad. He had to stay in Italy. Very understandable decision. I was kind of mad at the club initially on Twitter, kind of, why are you letting Radja go just on a dry loan? No chance of him, making any money out of him. But then when you think about it, it's a very sensible human decision, letting Radja go there whilst he takes care of his wife. Cagliari are paying most of his wages, so Inter are paying for just the June and July wages, but Cagliari are covering the rest of the wages, which saves Inter around 8 million in gross wages, which is big saving in footballing terms. The deal has not been made official yet. It's of course depending on medical, which should be happening in the next few days, but it looks pretty much done and dusted. Cagliari's midfield is actually looking pretty decent for next year, with the Nainggolan and Marco Rog from Napoli. So yeah, it will be interesting to watch them next year. A very combative midfield for sure. But yeah, those were my thoughts on this whole Nainggolan timeline. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, as I said at the beginning, I was kind of angry and biased towards the decision, because I still think Radja was a good signing. But of course, in hindsight, the Zaniolo thing, and now being unable to get rid of his high wages and being able to sell him on due to his age has sort of clearly made that deal not that good really. And I mean, I'm still waiting to decide whether this was a good deal or not, because it depends on the replacement. Nainggolan, whether you like it or not, even when he was at 40-50%, he was still our best midfielder. Of course, he only performed at a high level for 4 or 5 matches in the whole season maybe, but those 4 or 5 matches clearly made a difference for us. And the replacement that needs to come in for Radja has to be at least the same, or if not higher quality. So I'm waiting till the replacement is here to see how to judge this deal. But for now, it's not a bad deal, not as bad as I initially thought. But you guys let me know, what did you think of this deal, Radja to Cagliari? Let me know in the comments below. As always guys, please like and subscribe. Forza Inter!